We're literally on the cusp of a new administration. Yes, we're all excited because the last regime was weak, inept, and caused us problems. Well, guess what? There's a new report that shows that 2025, no matter who won, yes, there are better winners and losers when it comes to Trump being better to face it. But he said 2025 will be the year that the debt and the financial crisis that America has put itself in will come to fruition. He says, beware, this year will be tough. We're going to talk about what he is saying and how it affects you, especially if you're living on things that you've believed in. Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, the safety of our nation, all that we're going to discuss. Also, a new report shows that no matter, again, that we have new leadership, we have new cabinet members. There was a bombshell report of a leak found by James O'Keefe that showed that the Pentagon was pushing for every effort to not allow Trump to be in power. Now, they fired the guy who brought the report, but he was reporting on the mass amounts of people that's fighting him. So that uphill battle that we spoke of is still going to happen, and we're going to discuss that story. Also, we're going to discuss what another state is doing, Texas. Texas has got a surplus, and it's got so much extra surplus. This is what other states should be doing, and when that happens, guess what? We should cut people's taxes. We're going to discuss all that and a few more stories. A recall with Gavin Newsom. Could this be the chance that California swings back? We'll see. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new to our channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about the content of today's video. First, I want to talk about what 2025's prediction is. This is from an article from internationalman.com. It says, I expect 2025 to be the year of profound transformation, the year of federal debt. The bubble that we've made completely burst. Now, what he's saying is the way that we're spending money and the way we have spent money, not just in the last 4 years, which has been astronomical, but literally the last of the modern history, where we grew our government so big in social programs. And because of those things, there's no way that we can actually cut spending to a point where it's going to make a difference. Now, Trump's goal is to make so much money and have such a monster economy that it, supersedes the fact of the debt and the spending that we do. That's not a bad idea. A lot of businessmen would look at it the same way. But the problem is the things that we're needing to cut affect you and me. And it's also the things that we have been made to believe that's supposed to take care of us. Let's dive in a little bit. It says, navigating the new paradigms of the finance and the geopolitics of energy and money and investment is huge. The primary focus is to research the big picture. And the fact is that we cannot cut spending like everybody is wanting to cut spending for it to actually make a dent in the problem of our debt. A crucial tipping point was reached in 2024 when the interest expense of the federal government exceeded the defense budget and is the second biggest expense in America right now. I want you to listen to the top expenditures with the government and you tell me how we can cut without affecting us. Now, here's the thing. I think we need to be affected, but I think we need to make sure that we do it in a way that is wise. I want you to listen to this. It says, Social Security is the biggest expenditure at $1.4 trillion. Interest, $1.1 trillion. Health, the new health insurance that the government took over with Obama, $912 billion. Medicare, $874 billion. Defense, $874 billion. Welfare, what we give people to help them out, $671 billion. Veterans benefits, half of that at $325. Education, Department of Education, $305 billion. And everything else is about $448 billion. Okay, so everything else is less than what we're doing, is less than a half of what just our interest is. Now, how can we get our interest out? Well, we got to cut our spending. Well, how do we cut our spending? Well, the top things are Social Security, Medicare, health, defense, and welfare. Now, can we rework some of those programs? Yes. And I think we should. I believe the people that's paid in Social Security, especially if you're 35 and older or 40 and older, find that number, whatever that number is, and you allow the government to fully fund their Social Securities and take care of them. But for the other ones that are like my age and under, give us an opt-out policy of these social policies. Because what we're doing is we get robbed of our checks and we see that we're still bankrupt and we cannot depend on this because it may not even be there. The average American that pays in, say they have a $100,000 to $200,000 job. Now that's a lot of money. Do you know if what they have to pay into Social Security, by the time they get to the Social Security age, the amount of money they put in would have been over quadrupled, 4 times the amount, if not more, if they were able to put it in just a typical mutual fund or some kind of bond or equity fund compared to the Social Security. Meaning they could have had a way better retirement if they could have been over their savings versus the government. Isn't that amazing? So there should be an opt-out policy. Now, again, we just put another $1 trillion of spending just in health insurance, government health insurance. Should we have ever done that? No. What we should have done is made it where these insurance companies were regulated, where they had to be better and they had to work across state lines and they had to lower the price. That's what should have happened. But instead, we developed this new social program, everybody buys into it, and now we're trying to figure out how to pay for it. So there's no way to actually get our spending under control because the things that we're spending our money on is astronomical. We have a deficit of about $1.4 trillion a year. That's the same as our Social Security spending. Okay? If we put tariffs and overtax everybody, we still can't overcompensate for that 1.4 trillion. Not only that, but to fulfill the budget obligations to pay down our debts and all the things that we owe on. So what I'm saying is, no matter how good the tariff thing sounds, and I love the tariff thing, I think it's a great idea. The only way to do this is start cutting spending and cut bureaucracy. Now, Department of Education, $305 billion. Now you have to have money going to some public schools. I understand that. But we need to start cutting some of these boards and these groups and these cabinet positions and this bureaucracy, because that is where the waste is. And then that will help us start hopefully building a little bit extra money to start throwing towards these other things. But sadly, the biggest thing is we need to restructure welfare. We need welfare checks. And people that get welfare from the government, they need to make sure that they are drug tested. They also need to make sure that they are trying to find a job. And they also need to find a job. It should not be something that people live off disability or welfare. Most people, now I'm going to say this, I have a family member who is truly disabled. I mean, they're in a nursing facility. They can't speak. They struggle walking. They can't even see. Like they have a major ordeal. My tax dollars, I do want to go towards those kind of individuals because she is 30-something years old and living in the rest of her life in a nursing home. Our money should go to help those kind of people. At the same time, I know 9 to 10 other people that quote-unquote are disabled, but they're working just as much as I am a day. They just get it cash. So they're getting all the government handouts along with still being able to do what normal Americans do every day. There's tons of people I know that will not marry. They'll have children out of wedlock just to get the welfare checks. That's wrong. So that's the things that we should correct. Now, Social Security, Medicare, health insurance, we need to restructure for the younger Americans. That way they're not paying into a broken system, but at the same time, we can use the extra money to then turn around and fully fund the Social Securities of individuals that got robbed from the government from paying into Social Security. So let's make sure that, 35 and older, 40 and older, whatever we become, whatever is the number, they should be taken care of. And then there should be the opt-out clause. There should be opt-out clauses for everyone under that age. What this guy was saying in this article, he's saying there's no way that we can be sustainable unless we make some hard decisions. Either we cut defense back down to World War II spending, he said, or we start cutting these programs. Either way, if we don't, we will see a correction in the market that we can't even understand crisis-wise. Because not that it's Trump's fault, not that it's the Americans' fault for Social Security, not that it's the Americans' fault for Medicare. He said it's the bureaucratic class's fault because we've allowed this spending to go on and go on and go on. And we elect these people to keep doing the same things that they're always doing, filling their pocket full of money, letting lobbyists and pork overrule the law, and nothing actually gets accomplished. For instance, look at the Republicans. Look at Mike Johnson, this stopgap bill that they were trying to pass with this excess pork. Now, yes, they got it down to a little bit less than what it was, but honestly, it still was a waste of a lot of our money. Now let's go to Texas, and this is where I want to bring up just a huge thing of saying, okay, this is why states are important, and this is why good leadership is important, and I hope that Trump can do this on a national side. I just think the bureaucratic class is too big. I want you to listen to this because this is showing exactly what states should be doing. Texas has a surplus of funds. Texas has the largest budget surplus of any state in America, thanks to the hardworking Texans who made it possible. It says Texas Comptroller reports that $24 billion budget surplus. Now, what does that mean? That means they learned how to utilize their projects, learn how to utilize the natural resources like oil, because Texas is a big oil state. They learn how to make sure they're making wise decisions, and now they have a $24 billion surplus. You know, California and Alaska and some of these other states are even richer than Texas, but they do not tap into their resources like they should. A lot of these states could be completely independent, California being one of them, if they tapped in their natural resources. But no, they'd rather save a fish than build their water up. They'd rather do this for quote-unquote environment and then take away from the fact of the natural resources that are under the ground. What we should learn from what Texas did is that if we learn to do right decisions, capitalize on the things that make us money, like natural gas in America is huge. Trump is starting to do this. He told the EU. The EU is in war against Russia, but they're still buying fuel from Russia. But Trump said, look, if you don't start buying natural gas from us, we're just going to stick a tariff on you. That's absolutely the right thing to do. That's how you do it. You tap into our natural resources and you say, okay, we are going to use our independence and our energy and our food sectors to sell to the world. If we have trade partners, they have to buy from us or we're going to charge them to sell goods to us. That's how you start this process. Now, as the last article said, we're in for an uphill battle because ultimately we have a debt situation and federal growth and huge problem with our social programs that it's going to be an uphill battle. But just like Texas did, they took a situation with a balanced budget to then become a balanced surplus. Now, should we cut Texans' income tax and property tax? Yep, that's exactly what should happen because they're in a surplus. People in the Texas shouldn't have to keep paying the taxes they've been paying because ultimately they're in a surplus. Cut their government to a new set of budget rules to where people can have more of their money in their checks. And you know what? Guess what would happen? Texas economy would explode more because more people would be moving in. Also, more states would learn from that. You know, Mississippi, we've had to pay income tax. It makes no sense to me because Florida and Louisiana and some of these other states are starting to cut theirs. Well, guess what? Because of that trend, Mississippi's talking about cutting income tax for the first time, state income tax. Now, they should cut more taxes, and yes, property tax is a joke. We've talked about that before. But what I'm saying is, if we see a state doing good things, why don't we learn from it? And then therefore, it helps all of the United States. California has a $250 billion mess right now with the fires. They said it could surpass $300 to $400 billion. We spent $300 billion over in Ukraine. Now, that's $600 billion just in two things that America or the states or someone's got to pay for. Taxpayers. So again, why don't we learn how to do things like Texas and learn how to do things like some of these states that are in surplus and say, okay, if we're going to keep doing this and making money and doing well in the states, then that helps our economy. Overall, everybody starts learning how to do this better, and therefore our country will be better because we're becoming more independent. We're learning how to balance budgets. We're learning how to use the resources that we have, and also our federal government is getting trimmer and leaner because they're realizing, well, what the states do, I can do on a bigger scheme when it comes to our federal government. Quit worrying about everybody else's problems, like I said, and you start you start fixing ours first. It's just like this situation with tariffs. Tariffs is a good thing, especially for the what Trump says, the external IRS. You know, it's kind of like he's saying, okay, I'm going to make sure everybody else is taxed, non-Americans. That's a great thing. But because our bubble is so big, we're going to probably see a correction this year. But what we should do is learn from a state like Texas and say, you know what? If states have to balance their budget, federal government should too, and let's start cutting where we can and start using that money to start fixing and reforming Medicare, disability, welfare, Social Security, health insurance, and of course, defense, and get our debt under control. The last two stories, this is where the uphill battle starts. Did you see the story that James O'Keefe broke on OMG? It was a Pentagon official stating that for the last few years, they've tried everything in their power, the generals, the high elite in the Pentagon, to do everything they can to stop Trump from winning. James O'Keefe reports, it says, top Pentagon official reveals on hidden camera conversations with a couple of retired generals to explore what we can do to protect the people from Trump. He confirmed with secret meetings regarding that it is sensitive information and we're going to have to do this between us. So they were going behind the back of who is now going to be the executive, the chief executive officer of the United States and who is over the Pentagon. It says the top Pentagon advisor, when this story broke, was fired. But here's the thing. What about all the people that has been talking behind this? He just broke the story. He just said the quiet parts out loud. What about the other 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 big players in the Pentagon? Right now, they all still have jobs, don't they? This is the uphill battle because ultimately there are still people all across the DOJ, the FBI, the CIA. I mean, you name it. Any cabinet place, any bureaucratic class, there is people that will try to do all they can to keep the status quo, because that's their meal ticket, that's their gravy train. The senators, the Republicans, the congressmen, the Democrats, all these people in Washington live on this swamp spending your money as taxpayers. That's how they make it. That's how the millions of people live in Washington, D.C. is because they take your tax dollars and use it for poor projects. Think of all the think tanks and think of all the bureaucratic classes. I mean, I went to Washington. It's a beautiful place. I love seeing the historical places. But every building is some kind of department of this or some kind of governmental office, some kind of governmental think tank, some kind of lobbyist firm, some kind of lawyer office, some kind of accountant's office that all pertain to what the Congress are doing, what the White House is doing, what our government is doing. Now we're the biggest government in the world. So yes, we have to make sure it stays working properly. But this is the part that Trump is going to have an uphill battle with. And Elon and Vivek and all these other people. I told you yesterday, they've built this class up from the Fed to the bureaucracy for over 115 to 120 years. Sadly, I don't know, because this is the only time you have the Republican Congress and Senate and the White House. In a 2-year time before the next election for House members and Senate members, and traditionally that goes to the opposite party. So say you have 2 years. 2 years to undo 120 years worth of problems. Now, I think you need to step in that right direction. And if you take half of that or 1/10 of that or a portion of that and make it better, every step in the right direction is good. But remember, we can't even get our Congress and Senate to go along with Trump. So what I'm saying is it's an uphill battle. What O'Keefe broke was the fact that this is just one department with a few talking heads trying to keep Trump out of power because they don't want the status quo messed up. Remember, the Pentagon has failed audits for the last 7 years. They have an $800 billion budget, and they can't account for $400 billion. So you think these top generals and this top brass and all the cabinet positions and the bureaucratic class tied to the Washington defense, you think that they want Trump in power? No. They want the status quo to be the status quo because they want that money flowing into them. So what O'Keefe came out with is, I hope he'll do this in every department. I hope Doge and Vivek and Elon will do the same thing, is they will expose the fact that these people are taking our money and using it for things that are actually not helping us as Americans. Go back to the trillions of dollars of spending that we shouldn't be spending. A lot of it can be cut, and a lot of it can make it better. And a lot of it, if we can control the budget enough, yes, we could still have a collapse and we can still have a crisis, we can still have a recession, but we can control it enough to where it will not take our economy. That's the key. If Trump can get ahead of the situation with tariffs, with cutting, with the fact of trying to do all they can, the correction and the recession may not be nearly as bad as what it could be if we just keep letting the status quo be the status quo. Last two stories. Elon Musk, same way. Here he is, the SEC. The SEC, who is losing power. Gary Gensler's fisting to resign. Biden's going out of the White House, and all of a sudden now they bring a lawsuit against Elon for buying Twitter shares at a discounted rate. Very artificially low. Now, Remember, the story was actually that Elon overpaid like 5 times what Twitter was worth for $47 billion. But now they're going to bring a lawsuit against him because what they're trying to do, again, with the bureaucratic class, no matter that Gary Gensler's going out of power, no matter that new leadership's coming in, the juggernaut of the government is still trying to sue Elon Musk for falsifying documents dealing with the buy of Twitter. If they can shut him up or keep him working on this problem with lawsuits, then he can't do his job with trying to cut the government. You see how that works? Just like we were just talking about. The kicking can down the road and seeing this bureaucratic class just keep letting this money be spent will put us in, just like we talked about with the 2025 crisis, it will put us in one of the biggest financial problems we've ever seen. Again, goes back to our government is way too big. Now lastly, let's talk California once more. Again, the richest state in the union, has the most resources, has pretty much wiped up all his surplus, now has the biggest fire in history, the biggest expenditure to the United States, they're saying could be these fires. No one's Googled more wildfires in any point in time in history than right now. Right now, they're trying to throw a new recall against Gavin Newsom. Here's your chance, California, to say we're done with this liberal policy of Gavin Newsom, Karen Bass, and all the supermajority of the Democrats. This is your chance to become like Texas. This is your chance to be better. I mean, again, California, unlike places like Mississippi or Louisiana or anything like that, we have great states. But Florida, Texas, and California, they're different. And New York. But look at what Florida and Texas has done. They've made surpluses. They've made their economies work. I mean, Florida gets hit with hurricanes and natural disasters all the time, and somehow they absorb it and still come out on top compared to what California is dealing with now. The difference? Leadership. It's not woe is me or try to build this new policy for the government to take over a new socialist government like California's done. Texas and Florida has proven what California could be, and could be at the very best the richest, most prosperous state in the nation. But it's going to take a new leader. Now there's growing calls, even from Hollywood, the most liberal among them, stating that they should recall Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom. Here is your chance. Recall Gavin Newsom and fix California. Now, will you have an uphill battle too? Oh my gosh. Even probably worse than America, because you have got a supermajority of Democrats and policies that's been going back for years. But this is your chance. The pendulum is swinging. Just like Biden, now the White House, now Trump. California, you have a chance to get rid of Gavin Newsom with the recall. Give someone else a chance to make California better than what it is right now. And I don't believe you'd see the problems that you're seeing. That's my thoughts for the day, guys. We're coming up on some very tough times. You know what 2025, that guy that was writing that article, he said, and it comes always back down to this. What the battles we fight in the world is over? Food and energy and money. If you have food and energy, you tend to have power and money. But he said that's all it comes down to. If America could learn to capitalize on its energy, capitalize on its food, balance its budget and make its money stronger, then we will truly be the most powerful nation in the world, and we can set policy better. But we have to fix what we have first. Now, let's go back to our homes. Personally, it's the same thing. Take care of your food, take care of your energy, take care of your money. Make sure you're buying some gold and silver. Make sure you're putting up some cash. Making sure you're staying on a balanced budget. Make sure that you have food. Put up some food. Learn how to grow some food. Learn how to have some energy and to cut cost when you don't need to be spending money like you do. Learn how to control your expenditures and your energy uses. Learn how to control your spending when it comes to your home, your insurances, the things that you need, your wants and needs. If we can control that, no matter what the world goes through, sometimes we can be better and not have to deal with it as much. It's like I told you before. 2020 was bad. The economy was bad. People were losing jobs. They were not able to go to work. The sicknesses, blah, 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 blah. You know, it didn't affect us as much because we were prepared. So we really didn't change the way we were doing life. Our kids were still homeschooling. Our family still kept going because we still had tons of food, and we didn't have to go to the store. We didn't go to a lot of places. Why? Because we were prepared. Well, you know, like a financial crisis. I have money in the market, it would hurt. But I also have cash. I have a surplus in my budget. And I've also stockpiled currencies that are not just the dollar, gold and silver. So I'm preparing and hedging against what they're saying 2025 is going to bring. Now, would it be hard? Our economy as a nation would hurt. Our businesses may hurt. Food may go up. But if you're growing your own food, you're stockpiling food, you're learning to control your debts, you're learning to stay in a budget surplus, then it will not affect you as much. Guys, thank you for watching. Pay attention to these stories again. O'Keefe dropped a huge bombshell. You need to go check out that story about the Pentagon. I think this is just one agency that every other agency is doing the same thing. And the more we expose them, the more the truth will come out. And Trump will have a better chance at really changing America. We got to change what we're doing, or we're going to be in the worst depression or something that's just as bad in 2025, like this market, like this guy said in this article. It is not about politics. It's about the fact that we have spent and kicked our can down the road and wasted money to a point where it's going to come to fruition. Pay attention to these stories, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Again, please make sure you are subscribed so that way you will know what's going on and that we can learn how to be wiser together. God bless.